My name is Ronald Allen De Castro, a student of Bachelor of Science and Custom Administration, and welcome to my pre-recording report about operational provisions. Operational provisions, Section 13, Statutory Provisions of Ingress and Clearance. Section 14, the pre-arrival, in notice of arrival, or the NOA with estimated time of arrival, or the ETA. The shipping agent or representative of any vessel engaged in foreign trade entering any of the Philippine ports of entry shall notify the Piers and Inspection Division, Bay Service Section of the vessel's arrival and all other particulars at least 24 hours in advance. And then upon receipt of the notice of arrival or the NOA, the Customs Inspector or the E2M-OIC of the Piers and Inspection Division, Bay Service Section shall perform the following function. First, they electronically verify the vessel registry number or the principal and other vessel information through Client Profile Registration System or the CPRS. Second, input the estimated time of arrival in the E2M Customs System. Third, encode the time and date in the system and affix the signature on the hard copy of the notice of arrival. And then fourth, furnish the customs boarding team a copy of the processed notice of arrival or the NOA. Assignment of customs boarding team. The customs boarding team shall be assigned by the Chief Bay Service Section or equivalent office through a duly assigned assignment order. Section 12, item number 4, hereto is contained therein. All documents, except copies for the customs inspector on board the vessel, shall be forwarded to the office of the Chief Bay Service Section or its equivalent office for transmittal to offices concerned. Inward Foreign Manifest or the IFM and Consolidated Cargo Manifest, the CCM contents. The hard copy of the Inward Foreign Manifest required to be submitted by the master of the vessel to the boarding officer shall contain the following information: bill of lading number, marks and numbers of cartons, drums, boxes, crates, and other forms of protective packaging. That is for the break bulk. And then container and seal number if containerized, and initials FCL if full container load, and LCL if less container load. And then number of packages, kind of packages, for example the cartoons, boxes, crates, drums, and etc. And then contents of description of cargo, shipper, consignee, gross weight in metric tons, and then measurement in cubic meters, port of origin, and then the last, the notified party. Inward foreign cargo manifest admitted not in accordance with the above requirements shall be rejected. The customs senior boarding officer shall, with his initials, note down on all the copies of inward foreign cargo manifest delivered to him by the master of the vessel the specific time and date when such documents were received. In the inward foreign cargo manifest is not the English language, the customs senior boarding officer shall require its translation to English before accepting the same. And then, late submission would be having a first offense, and then second offense and third offense. And then the non-compliant submission will be charged 30,000 pesos. Section 15, Arrival. Here, we will be discussing the documents and permits. First, quarantine certificate for incoming vessels from a foreign port. Entry of vessels from any port or place outside of the Philippines shall not be permitted until they have obtained a quarantine certificate issued under the authority of the Bureau of Quarantine. However, if a vessel has already been issued a quarantine certificate in the first Philippine port of entry, she or he will not be required to undergo another quarantine formalities at succeeding ports of call in the Philippines. And then no person shall be allowed to board or leave the vessel before they are cleared by the Bureau of Quarantine, except the pilot who is governed by the quarantine regulations in such contingencies. And then the certificate shall be part of the required documents to be received by the customs senior boarding officer and the master of the vessel. No quarantine permit shall be required for the discharge of regularly manifested cargo including animals, plants, and etc. unless otherwise required by the law or regulations. However, if animals or plants are carried as baggage, their discharge shall be subject to the regulations promulgated by the Bureau of Officer concerned. Then second is the entrance of vessel from a foreign port. Upon arrival of a vessel from a foreign port, BOC OPM from number 9, oath of entering vessel from a foreign port with customs documentary stamp duly accomplished by the master in 4. The following customs personnel shall be the members of the customs boarding team: customs senior boarding officer, customs inspector, and then the last is the customs guard or the guards. And then submission of advanced electronic manifest before arrival of vessels engaged in foreign trade through E2M customs system and penalties. The submission of electronic copy of inward foreign manifest and electronic copy of consolidated cargo manifest must be done through any of the value-added service providers accredited by the BOC. In the case of shipping, lines must be electronically submitted at least 12 hours before arrival of the carrying vessel. And then the cutoff time for e-manifest submission is calculated from the submitted estimated date and time of arrival using the BOC gateway service clock. The EIFM must be submitted ahead of the ECCM. If the ECCM is submitted ahead of the will not be registered in the E2M custom system but has to be resubmitted when the EIFM is already registered. Registration of e-manifest, the system of automatically registers a manifest in the E2M customs system if the manifest meets the submission deadline. However, if the deadline is missed, the concerned shipping line or agent should submit a formal request later to the Office of Deputy Collector for operations to allow a BOC inflated manual registration of the manifest in E2M. Only the Deputy Collector for the operations can approve the request and execute the manual registration through the direct register function. A late or non-compliant submission fee will be charged for the procedure following the schedule for lines provided in section 2521 of the Tariff and Customs Code of the Philippines as amended. And then copies shall be presented to the Office of the Customs Clearance Officer within 24 hours. And third, documents to be produced by master upon entry of vessel. The following documents properly accomplished shall be submitted by the masters of the Customs Senior Boarding Officer: the quarantine certificate, clearance of the vessel from the last port of call, original and 4 copies of inward foreign manifest duly signed by the master, and then 3 copies each of the following: crew list, passenger list, passengers list for aliens as required by the immigration law in force in the Philippines, copy of original duplicate of bills of lading, bonded store list, narcotics and dangerous drugs list, ship store list, mail list, firearms and ammunition list, crew declaration list, parcel list, and then the last will be the shipping articles and register of the vessel of the Philippine Registry. Through cargo manifest, if any, which shall be deposited to the customs inspector and shall be returned to the master prior to departure to other ports. And then cargo stowage plan or the hatch list. And then if passenger vessel, 3 copies of the disembarking passengers list and their baggage declaration. The Customs Senior Boarding Officer shall, after carefully comparing the copies with the original manifest, stamp each of such manifest on the last page thereof with a rubber stamp provided for the purpose, and verify that the necessary information required in accordance with all articles, wares, goods, merchandise, and any other cargo including unaccomplished baggage and other or in cargo from abroad received by the master's officer and crew of vessels without bills of lading are not covered by the manifest or parcel list shall be subject to seizure as unmanifested cargo under the customs law. The inward foreign manifest shall be distributed to the following officers: a original copy, Pierce Inspection Division or the PID or equivalent office, and then one copy of the Commission on Audit or the COA, resident auditor through the Office of the Commissioner or the OCOM, and then one copy of Intelligence Group or the IG, and then the last one copy of Assessment and Operations Monitoring Group or the AOCG. Permits for discharge and lading of cargo. Unless the vessel has put into in distress, the customs senior boarding officer shall, upon placing the vessel under customs surveillance and control, issue a general permit. Such permit, however, shall not constitute an authority for the loading of export cargo or delivery of import cargo of ships aside without the required entries or permits as the case may be. The general permit shall be endorsed by the customs inspector assigned on board the vessel mentioned in the permit at the back, there showing whether all import cargoes has been discharged at the port or not. Such permit shall be included in his report after the termination of his assignment on board a vessel. Then, endorsement of permits. The following permits shall be endorsed on the reverse side thereof: the general permit, the shipside permit, permits for the sending of special consignments of cargo to the piers or to the parcel section, and then permit issued by the Deputy Collector for Operations or its equivalent office for the transfer of cargo from the one vessel to another. On the same permit and directly under the preceding endorsement, the receiving customs inspector shall make an endorsement to the effect that he received the cargoes on board the vessels to which he is assigned. So all the endorsement and returns shall be signed over the printed name and executed clearly and legibly, especially with a reference to any figures that may be included. All minor corrections shall be initialed by the endorsing officer, and all other permits shall be endorsed on the reverse side thereof. And then shipside permits. And then there are three kinds of shipside permits: the regular shipside permit, which is issued by the Deputy Collector for Operations or equivalent office as now presently required for all cargoes which belong to the categories of regular shipside cargoes under existing regulations. The second is the special shipside permit, when cargoes do not belong to regular shipside cargoes such as ballast, garbage, provisions, watering, bunking, vessel parts for repair. The ship's agent has to get the authority from the Collector of Customs prior to the processing and approval by the Deputy Collector for Operations or its equivalent office. And then the last, temporary shipside permit. It is a written authority to discharge cargoes or shipside unto lighter as per order of the Collector of Customs. And then this permit shall be forwarded direct to the Customs Inspector of the carrying vessel without entry being filed. This is issued only as an emergency measure to so as not delay ship operations. This permit is also issued on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays when there are no offices to process the regular shipside permit. Several conditions are usually imposed in the issuance of the temporary permit, among which are if the cargo is under guarded continuously until released by the Bureau of Customs, or that the lighter shall not be taken out of the customs designated barge pool area until the regular shipside permit is issued by the Deputy Collector for Operations or its equivalent office, and it is presented to the Customs Inspector of the carrying vessel. And the last, the Deputy Collector for Operations, Chief Piers and Inspection Division or the PID or its equivalent office by the duly notified of the discharge under the temporary permit. Pending issuance of shipside permits. Pending issuance of shipside delivery permit, the customs inspector on board may receive written requests from consignees countersigned by the ship agents and approved by the Collector of Customs that certain designated goods be discharged into separate carriers under such circumstances. The same procedure is enjoined as the case of shipside delivery, except the consignment shall be held alongside the vessel under guarded, provided that in case no permit is received by the customs inspector on board within 72 hours from the time of discharge. So the Chief Bay Service Section or its equivalent office shall be advised accordingly so the cargo may be sent to the customs designated barge, pool area or pier or wharf under guarded. And then the customs inspector assigned on a vessel who allows the discharge of cargoes at shipside shall comply strictly with the conditions and or requirements stated on the permit and prior to the unloading of the cargoes. He must first check the cargoes mentioned in the permit against the inward foreign manifest. After effecting total discharge of cargoes until later, the customs inspector shall endorse the shipside permit at the back thereof specifying the quantity of cargoes discharged. He must indicate the names of lighters loaded and the corresponding names of the customs guard in charge of each lighter loaded. A copy of a transfer note covering the shipment together with the corresponding guard's check report made by the customs guard in charge shall be attached to the shipside permit for submissions to the record section, piers, and inspection division or its equivalent unit. And then, transfer note or the boat note shall be made and sextuplicate by the customs inspector on board for cargoes delivered at shipside. The transfer note shall show the following: the name of vessel and registry number, the name of lighter, name of broker or consignee, shipside permit number, marks and numbers, kinds of description of goods, time and date lighter left alongside the vessel, and then names of signature of customs inspector, customs guard in charge of lighter, and the patron of the lighter. And then the last, any other information and or remarks such as conditions set forth on the shipside permit by the collector of customs. The copies of the prepared transfer notes shall be distributed as follows. Boarding sequence. The vessel upon arrival from a foreign port at the port of entry and after the issuance of the quarantine certificate by the Bureau of Quarantine shall be boarded in the following order. First, Customs Senior Boarding Officer, Customs Inspector, and Customs Guard assigned to the vessel. Second, the Immigration Officer. The third, Department of Agriculture or Plant Animal Fisheries Quarantine Representative as required. And then the last, other agencies or person authorized by the Collector of Customs. And then Customs Boarding Team on Foreign Vessel. The Customs Senior Boarding Officer shall place the vessel under customs control and surveillance by posting a customs inspector and customs guard thereon. No person shall be permitted to go on board such vessel except the pilot, consul, health official, immigration, and customs officer without the permission of the customs inspector on board vessel. Third, no tugboat, rowboat, or the watercraft shall be allowed to go alongside the vessel to ferry any person to or from the vessel without a permit from the collector of customs or his duly authorized representative. And then the last, the unauthorized tugboats, rowboats, and other watercraft shall keep away from such vessel engaged in foreign trade at a distance of not less than 50 meters. Submission of supplemental e-manifest. First, cargoes or the containers not listed in the IFM but are otherwise recorded in the storage plan must be covered by a supplemental e-manifest submitted by the BOC through the VASP not later than the 48 hours from the date of discharge of the last package from the vessel. Second, for the cargoes or containers not listed in the IFM and storage plan, the supplement e-manifest must be submitted not later than 24 hours from the date of the last package. And the last, in both cases, the Deputy Collector for Operation and the Chief Piers and Inspection Division or its equivalent office monitor the 48 or the 40 or the 24-hour rule as the case may be before authorizing the registration of the supplemental e-manifest into the electronic manifest system or the EMS. And then unloading of cargoes, containerized. Discharging of containerized cargo shall be authorized only upon issuance of a general permit by the Customs Senior Boarding Officer. Thereafter, unloading of containers shall commenced. During unloading the customs inspector, customs guard on board foreign vessels shall verify the container numbers against the discharging sequence. And then customs inspector or the customs guard shall check or inspect if the container seals are intact. And then submit discharging report shall be submitted upon completion of the unloading operation. Bulk and brick bulk. The clearance of cargoes for bulk and brick bulk cargoes or shipments such as liquids, chemicals, petroleum products, and all other cargoes shipped in bulk, the duties and taxes of which are normally determined by weight, shall be governed by pertinent regulations, more particularly the CAO 3-2010 and CMO 18-2010 on procedure for the bulk and brick bulk cargo clearance enhancement program mandated under administrative order. And then unloading of bulk and brick bulk cargoes at shipside. Shipside discharge of cargo shall be authorized only upon presentation of necessary shipside permit issued by the Deputy Collector for Operations. Upon receipt of the shipside permit, the customs inspector assigned on board shall verify the subject shipment covered by the shipside permit against the inward foreign manifest as to the correctness of marks and numbers, quantity, kind of merchandise, weight, and etc. And then issue of transfer note in sextuplicate covering the shipment mentioned in the permit. And then assign a customs guard to check the shipside permit that only those authorized to be discharged are unloaded. And then assign a regular customs guard to underguard the lighter with the cargoes if the permit so stipulates. And then when bulk cargoes are to be discharged onto lighters, the customs inspector shall not allow any cargo to be unloaded without for obtaining ton-inch immersion tip of the lighter from the patron. And then after discharge of bulk cargoes at shipside, the customs inspector and the board must sign and attest to the long tally of the consignee's report. In case wherein the vessel is anchored at the anchorage, personal effects, parcel cargoes, and the like may be discharged at shipside onto the launch for the subsequent immediately delivery to the Office of Bay Service Section or its equivalent office underground, where the goods shall be duly received by the customs personnel in charge, straight on the face on transfer note. And then cargo shall be released upon the presentation for the customs inspector on board of a statement of settlement of duties and taxes or the SSDT, duly issued by the formal entry divisions or its equivalent office. And then duties of customs inspector relative to import cargo. And loading of passengers, baggage, or crew personnel effects. The customs inspector on board shall not examine incoming passengers' baggage. However, if no examiner is on hand during night time, Sundays, and holidays, the customs inspector on board may inspect and pass the hand-carried personal effects of incoming passengers relating on board articles, goods, and effects subject to duty and or tax, which should be sent to the Office of the Bay Service. Under the transfer notes and underguarded, the customs inspector shall also render transfer notes and on the face of the original of which the receiving customs personnel in charge at the office by the service section or the PID or its equivalent office shall indicate his receipt. And then outgoing passengers taking valuables or jewelry aboard shall be advised to secure certificates of identification from the export division or its equivalent office, and it shall be the duty of the customs inspector on board the vessel to verify that such articles are actually taken on board by attesting on the certificate of identification that such jewelries are actually brought by the passengers on board. And then section 17, customs transit. It means the customs procedure under which goods are transported under customs control from the one customs officer to another. Customs transit operation refers to the transfer of goods from an office of departure to an office of destination under customs transit. Then, customs transit by overland transportation shall be subject to such additional conditions as proper customs authorities may impose, provided it shall be underguarded until received by the collector of customs or deputy collector for operations at the port of destination, and provided further that the compartment where the cargo is stored or each and every package thereof be sealed with customs seal. And then there are four kinds of customs transit operations: from port of entry to another port of entry as exit point for outright exportation, and then second, from the port of entry to another port of entry or inland customs office, and then the third, from an inland customs office to port of entry as exit point or outright exportation, and then the last, from one port of entry or the inland customs office to another port of entry or inland customs office. When import cargo is transferred from a foreign vessel to a coastwise vessel for transit to coastwise port, the customs inspector on board of the latter vessel shall require, besides the permit duly approved by the deputy collector of customs from the operations, transfer note in duplicate and a transit cargo manifest in triplicate. He shall cause the cargo to be checked on board carefully by marks and numbers, and then all the packages that are placed under the seal of shall be marked, sealed, and initiated by the assigned customs guard. And then the customs inspector, together with the master of chief officer of the receiving vessel, shall then execute a certificate on the face of each copy of the transit cargo manifest in the transfer note. And then after the transit cargo has been received on board, it shall be sealed. Necessary alterations and certificates shall be executed on the face of each copy of the manifest. Then the original of the transit manifest shall be delivered by the customs inspector to the master of the vessel, who should be advised to turn over the same without delay to the collector of customs of the port of destination, while the duplicate and triplicate copies shall be forwarded to the chief or the Pearson Inspection Division or its equivalent office. Then, transshipment, customs procedure under which goods are transferred under custom control from the importing means of transport to the exporting means of transport within the area of one customs office, which is the office of both importation and exportation. Like for example, the foreign transshipment. A special instruction to customs inspectors relative to the discharge of transshipped cargo. And then, instruction relative to foreign transshipment. After having been duly processed at the deputy collector for operations, the foreign transshipment permit, in case of containerized cargoes, with its supporting document, shall be coursed through the Customs Container Control Division or its equivalent office for posting of container numbers, their eventual loading. The loading inspector assigned to carrying vessels shall verify the correctness of the container numbers indicated in the permit prior to loading of transit or the transshipment cargoes on board the carrying vessel. And then the Section 19, transport of imported cargo to outside CFS by CCCD. After having been duly processed of the office of the deputy collector for operations, the permit to the transfer to outside shall be coursed through the Customs Container Control Division for posting of container numbers and their eventual transfer. The permit to transfer to outside shall be transmitted to the office of the chief. And then that's all. Thank you.